if you're going to understand why food is so toxic in America, while other countries around the world are banning these dangerous foods, including GMOs and many herbicides, pesticides, artificial colors, additives, preservatives, and so on, you have to understand that the U.S. government today is so incredibly corrupt that it has sold out to corporate interests. We're living under a food fascist system. And fascism is the correct description of this, because fascism means the combined totalitarian power of corporations working in conjunction with corrupt government regimes. When corporations write the regulatory rules, you have fascism. When government exists to protect the interests of the corporations while betraying the interests of the people, you have fascism. And in the food industry in particular, the corporations now utterly and completely control the FDA and the USDA both. Think about it. Why, in any sane society, why would we not label GMOs? Why would we not want the consumer to have more information that they can use to make an informed decision about what they wish to eat? And yet this corrupt, criminal, corporate regime and corporate government fascist regime says consumers don't have the right to know that they're eating GMOs. Only in America, because of course America is the headquarters of Monsanto and the biotech industry, which has its financial tentacles into academia, into the media. You know, Forbes.com named the most evil news publisher of 2015, totally run by the biotech industry. Just a prostitute for publishing articles by Henry Miller and other scumbags of the biotech industry, like John Entine, who we actually got fired from Forbes because he was just printing absolute lies. He would just make anything up and write it up, any accusation, any slander attack, anything, and Forbes would publish it because Forbes has no quality standards, no standards of factual basis behind anything when it comes to GMOs. They're just totally run by Monsanto. And the University of Florida, you know, that's where the biotech shill, or wait, what's he called? The Monsanto douchebag, Kevin Folta. That's where he took this money from Monsanto and then publicly stated that he didn't take any money, and then he got caught because of, what was it, the FOIA requests that exposed those emails of he conspiring with other people. I mean, it was quite hilarious. But Monsanto and the biotech industry has its financial influence corrupting every sector of society: government, media, and academia. And also Wikipedia, totally corrupted by biotech. They run every page on Wikipedia that has anything to do with biotechnology, GMOs, clean food activists, anything. It's all run by them. So the corruption is so intense in the United States that the rest of the world is leaving the U.S. in the dust on food safety. Again, the rest of the world is banning GMOs. You know, Taiwan just banned GMOs from school lunches, required mandatory GMO labeling. Russia has banned GMOs. Many countries in Eastern Europe have banned GMO agriculture completely. There are even counties in the United States that are banning GMO agriculture at the county level. And organic farmers across the United States are now demanding GMO-free buffer zones so that their fields don't get contaminated by genetically modified crops that blow into their fields. And by the way, when they do blow into their fields and contaminate their organic crops, they get sued by companies like Monsanto for stealing the intellectual property of the patented seeds. They didn't steal it. The wind blew it in. So the system is totally insane. Every single person that is pushing GMOs today is a prostitute. They are a paid off, even though they claim to be speaking on behalf of science, they're not. If prostitution is science, then yeah, they're scientists. But that's all they're doing, is they're prostitutes who are paid to attack clean food and to push a quack science, corporate science agenda based on nothing but total fraud. That is the GMO/biotech industry in America today. And because America has such power in the world on the trade front, they're pushing this agricultural imperialism onto other countries, trying to force other countries to accept GMOs and disallowing sanctions or import tariffs to be placed on GMOs. So this is how the USA really operates. If you wonder why the rest of the world hates America, and believe me, they do, it's because of things like this. And in fact, if you go back a couple of decades, the USA did this with tobacco. Same exact thing. In fact, going back to the 1990s, Taiwan in particular was trying to protect its population from cigarettes and tobacco. And so Taiwan was attempting to restrict local advertising. Well, guess what? They were threatened with trade sanctions by the United States government. And guess whose cigarettes were being sold in Taiwan? Marlboro. And I don't know what the other brands are, but all the big brands were being pushed in Taiwan and other Asian countries where smoking was far more prevalent than it ever was in the United States. And so the U.S. was just using its trade imperialism to push this toxic, cancer-causing product onto Taiwan and China and Japan and Korea and all these other nations to prevent any kind of sanctions or import tariffs or bans on domestic advertising and so on. So you see, the U.S. is rightly seen as a trade bully all around the world. The U.S. is a trade bully that wants to export its poison to other nations around the world, and it will use its intimidation techniques, its threats, its trade sanctions, its political power in order to force these other countries to accept the importation of poisonous, toxic products like tobacco and GMOs. And by the way, it's no coincidence that Big Tobacco used the exact same techniques of scientific fraud, mass bribery, intimidation, infiltration, the same techniques that the GMO industry is using today. And it's also no coincidence that the exact same people who used to argue that smoking cigarettes was safe are now arguing that GMOs are safe as well. If you look at the ACSH, the American Council on Science and Health, and some of the people that it's involved with, a lot of them come from the big tobacco industry. Oh yeah, pushing cigarettes, now pushing GMOs. It's the same technique, the same science fraud, the same bullying, the same attempts at intimidation, the same attempts to discredit any whistleblowers, any real scientist who speaks out about or does research on the dangers of GMOs, the dangers of glyphosate, the dangers of genetic modification in terms of the environmental impact, the genetic pollution on crops, the unintended effects of genetically modifying food crops, all of these things. Atrazine in the water supply, turning frogs into, mutants. I mean, these are the same exact people. The GMO industry is pushed by the most evil, poison-pushing spawns of hell, They're like, that's who these people are. And they want to push their agenda and their poison. They want to commit mass murder globally. And that's what they do. As long as they make money, they don't care if they're committing mass murder everywhere around the world. Mass murder through cigarettes, mass murder through GMOs, and maybe there'll be another product later after the whole world finally bans GMOs. They'll probably come up with something else that kills people that can make them a profit. I mean, this is the global food holocaust. This is exactly what it is. And it's already probably killed more people than the actual Holocaust of World War II. I believe, 6 million Jews were killed in the Holocaust, if memory serves me correctly. And that's a lot of people. And that's a crime against humanity. Yet how many millions of people are now dying from cancer caused by eating genetically modified foods or the glyphosate that accompanies them? This is a food holocaust, and it's being pushed by the United States government under President Obama, and before him under President Bush. And if, who's the next president? If it's Hillary Clinton, she's going to push it too. She's the bride of Frankenfoods. And if it's Ted Cruz, he's probably going to push it too, because he's part of the GOP, and the GOP is all pro-Monsanto. Frankly, the only guy that even has a chance of stopping this in the presidency would be Donald Trump, who's actually pro-organic, believe it or not. And he doesn't need money from Monsanto or any of these other companies. He's got a shot, maybe. I mean, we don't really know his opinion right now on GMOs, but he's the only one in the running, I think, who's got a shot at doing anything. Not that it really matters, because consumers are rejecting it. Companies are labeling it. The clean food movement is winning everywhere. Campbell's Soup just announced they're going to label all the GMOs in their products. Did you know that? Campbell's Soup. Huge victory. And that they're going to support mandatory GMO labeling. Wow. I mean, think about it. When all these companies are opposing GMO labeling, like Kashi and PepsiCo and Coca-Cola, Kellogg's, General Mills, these are all sellouts. These are all traitors to the people. They actually committed, they participated in the commission of election fraud with the GMA, the Grocery Manufacturers of America, to commit fraud in the Washington state ballot measure so that they could defeat any effort to label GMOs in Washington state. These companies participated in that. They will commit any crime imaginable in order to keep you in the dark, so that you, the consumer, don't know what you're eating, and so that you don't have the right to avoid toxic ingredients that are probably giving you cancer. So this is part 2. We'll continue in part 3. You're listening to the Health Ranger Report. If you've missed the other parts, check them out at healthrangerreport.com. This is Mike Adams. I'll continue with part 3.